Hey, happy Friday, everybody. Yes, it's Friday, not Thursday, when we typically do these videos. I couldn't get around to it yesterday. Too many wonderful vendors were messing with my schedule. And so instead of creating a video for you, I tasted a lot of great wines in order to find you some new things. And we did. We had a fantastic Chateauneuf de Pape, for instance, a producer I haven't tasted in so long. When I heard it had gone to a new book, and we met that rep, we said, hey, you've got Brusquier now? So Domaine de Brusquier Chateauneuf de Pape is coming in today. It was so delicious yesterday that I had to have it back. I had to have it come in today. So any minute now, the doorbell's going to ring and it will be conveyed. So look forward to that. And you should also look forward to having some of this. What we have in front of you today, we always start with some kind of a prop to remind me of what I'm supposed to talk about. Here is a glass of wine. Well, what else would you expect to see up here except a bottle of wine? You know, a glass of wine, bottle of wine. I mean, it's the Wine Steward video, right? But it's a glass of wine. I want to elaborate on that in a little while. We'll get to that. Let's get this out of here right now and try not to indulge and tell you about this, which I have poured into this glass just to make sure I still love it. I do. In fact, I kind of took a dive. I heard that the importer of this wine had 23 bottles left of this 2014 Finca Sobreño Ildefonso. This is a Tempranillo, 100% Tempranillo. They would call it Tinta de Toro in their little area because their little area is called Toro. And it's not unusual for Tempranillo to get renamed according to particular location. Tempranillo has a lot of names like that. Tinta de Toro, or Tempranillo, whatever you want to call it, comes off of very, very old vines in this case. This is the top wine from Finca Sobreño. If you have been shopping with us for a very long time, you will remember that this used to have kind of a darker green label, and it didn't have that nickname, Ildefonso, but it is the same idea. It is the top wine from Finca Sobreño, 100% Tempranillo, from vines that are over 100 years old, head pruned, usually growing on their own roots. This is 2014, and therefore, one would expect it is becoming a little bit secondary or phase two-ish, as I would call it. So phase one is when all a wine has is its big, fun, forward fruit and maybe some unwieldy tannins. Phase two is when that wine is moving to a softer, more settled place, starting to introduce some savory qualities, but also retaining fruit. So the fruit is still there, but it's kind of moderating. It's kind of calming down a bit. And that's what this wine is, in fact, becoming, a phase two wine. Phase three wine, what's that? All the fruit's gone, all you get are the savories, and I don't deal in that very often. I think most people like, nowadays, to enjoy fruit in their wines. When you have something that's 20 or 30 years old and all the fruit's gone, you're just struggling to say nice things about it, typically. I mean, once in a while, those wines are fantastic. And Rioja, for instance, can be terrific at that age, but it takes the right wine. Most wines don't do that. Anyway, here's to phase one and phase two, all right? Phase two in this case, Ildefonso from Finca Sobreño, 100% Tempranillo. And beautiful, luxurious. I plan to have lamb this Sunday, and I'm going to have it with this, ladies and gentlemen, Ildefonso from Finca Sobreño. So, of course, what that means is I am about to own, actually I own all 23 bottles technically right now, but I'm going to purchase for personal use at least 1 or 2 bottles of Ildefonso. The rest of them are up for grabs. Get in on it. It just got here. It won't last long. All right. Now, why don't we tell you about what's happening on the wine bar this weekend? And at some point, we will get to this. We will discuss this prop here, but not yet. All right. Let's first tell you about the sparkling wine of the week. We had a wonderful visit from a winemaker the other day. Now, we get visited all week long by wonderful vendors and occasionally producers, winemakers, actual winemakers. And yet, I haven't had quite such a meaningful event of instant relationship with somebody as we did earlier this week with Faith Armstrong. She makes a brand called Onward. Everything she makes is made in the dozens or occasionally low hundreds of cases. This is a pétillant natural, which means it is sparkling wine where the second fermentation does happen in bottle like champagne, but unlike champagne, it is not disgorged. And so it might have a little bit of sediment in it. It's very naturally done. And that's really the way Faith naturally makes this wine is the way she naturally is. She's a real authentic person, really cool person. And so convicting and so interesting to talk to that I really would love to have her in front of a group of you. So look forward to an event where we promote the wines of Onward, which are not all that expensive. And you kind of have to be into a certain style of wine to be interested in coming. But we will handpick you. We will describe this event and this wine style further so that you will know whether or not it's for you. She does not make whoppers. She makes thoughtful and delicious. So let's hear. I don't need to work on a wire on this thing because a pet nat is usually finished, I think it always is, with a crown cap a la a beer. One must be a little bit careful removing that cap, but I can say that Faith, a fully trained winemaker who has worked for Frank Family and done other things for other wineries until she started her own brand, has got this this making of pet nat, which is a rather unstable creature, very technically correctly. Now that makes it sound like it might not be all that natural or all that delicious, but she just has the bubble thing down, which is the big trick. Some people make pet nats and they're very proud of the fact that when the crown cap gets pulled off, half the wine gushes out immediately. Oh, okay, well, that's spectacular and you are a fun mess, but that's half a bottle of wine wasted. Faith's pet nats do not behave that way. Sparkling wine from Suisun Valley. Do you know where that is? It's near Fairfield. And this is made entirely of Malvasia Bianca. That's a grape that you don't hear about all that much as grown in California. It's better known as a wine you'll see in Italy and sometimes in Spain as well, I believe. Oh, that's cool. It's nifty wine. It smells very natural, but not screwed up natural. There's a difference, I think. You can just pound this. I think the alcohol level is low. Yeah, 11.9, not too bad. Pound it anyway. And call Uber. Anyway, Onward. Look at this label design. Her mother created the label design, remembering a boat that Faith used to have to take to school. Yes, actually, she grew up on a little teeny tiny island, little and teeny tiny, in British Columbia, and took a boat to school every day. And this is the boat. The boat was called Onward, and so she decided to name her program, her winery, after the boat she used to take to school. How cool. All right, so that's the fun sparkling wine of the week. Less expensive, made a different way, but we try to keep it interesting around here. Tasty, tasty. It's kind of like beer meets wine meets cider. I mean, it's wine, right? But it's got this effect that's different from, let's say, champagne or Prosecco. It's cool stuff. All right, so let me find that menu. Where's the menu? Well, I've got the menu in the form of bottles right here, so I just can't remember what order we're pouring in. This is the White Flight. This is the beginning of the White Flight. Now I remember. This is from Charles Frey or Fry. You can say either one. I may be related to these people. They live in Alsace, France. They own land there and make delicious Alsatian varietals. So they make wonderful Riesling and Gewürztraminer and a Pinot Noir that's actually really good, and we carry it. Pinot Noir from Alsace, France. Yeah, most of them are not all that successful. Theirs is delicious. This is Pinot Blanc. Pinot Blanc, which looks like it might be sweet based on this elongated bottle called a Hock, but it's not sweet. It is dry, and I need an empty glass so I can savor this in front of you and make you feel very, very jealous. Pinot Blanc, dry Pinot Blanc from Alsace, France. Beautiful. White fruit, very pale fruits, like not white, not yellow peaches, but maybe white peaches, just barely, and a little bit of maybe a sense of chalkiness too. Good stuff. Good for a hot summer day. That's why we're getting out these whites. This style of white is prevalent on our recent flights because of the weather. We are consuming wine according to the weather. You know, in the colder months, we start to drink more full-bodied things. So where should we go from here? Let's go here. How about this? What a great-looking label. At least I think it is. This is called Love and Squalor. And it's a nice surprise. It's a nice surprise because it is Riesling that is dry. In fact, even declares that right here. Dry Riesling. Yes, the Rioja.
Can I have your bottle, please?
Oh, certainly. I need that back.
I will bring it right back.
That's great. All right, so here is a dry Riesling. In fact, it very carefully declares that right on the label. I don't know, can you see that? Dry Riesling. You know why they say that? They say that to allay your fears, because so many people see this shape of a bottle, see the word Riesling, and get really uptight and scared and run away. No, come back. This is wonderful dry Riesling. The other surprise, besides its dryness and it coming from Oregon, is that it is, thank you, Grace, it is 2017. A 2017 vintage white wine, for most white varieties, would be like starting to crash or have fully lost its fruit by now. Riesling has this wonderful property of durability. It just actually, it can hang on longer. Usually it takes Riesling with sugar in it, but this dry Riesling, I bought it like last week. This is not a wine that we had hanging around, like we put it on the wine bar to get rid of it. We do that sometimes, but this is brand new to the store. Right now, a 2017 dry Riesling from Oregon, with lingerie on the label. I mean, look, nothing wrong with this wine. It's delicious. Bring on the sushi. Yum, yum, yum. All right, so we told you about Pinot Blanc. We told you about Riesling. Let us tell you about the reappearance of a wine that we have carried many times, loved for many a vintage, and now have back. And this is Santari Vermentino. It is the best value we ever find from Vermentino, a grape grown especially in Tuscany, and especially good from 70 miles off the Tuscan coast, an island called Sardinia. And Sardinia is, like I said, I think it's the very best place in the entire world for Vermentino. It grows farther up in Liguria and in Piemonte. It changes names. When it gets over to France, they call it Rolle, R-O-L-L-E, but Sardinia. Remember that. Sardinian Vermentino is the best, okay? And Santari is your best value thereof. It is the least expensive version we ever carry. That doesn't mean it doesn't have the character. It does. I'm enlivened. My nostril hairs just straightened out. Wow. Oof. Nice. What we hope for from Sardinia and Vermentino is, of course, fruit, but it's kind of like, besides the melon fruit, you get this brininess, unmistakable brininess. It's a delicious island wine. Yes. Whatever. All right, so that's the wine number 3 on the white flight, and then we go to this guy here. Like, what the hell is it? It says Anjou. Bless you. Anjou. Bless you. It is a location called Anjou in the Loire Valley of Francais, and this is 100%. What do you think? Sauvignon Blanc? No. We're not in that part of the Loire Valley. It's very, very long east to west valley, and the Sauv Blanc usually happens in Sancerre and Puy-Fumé and Menetou-Salon, as we were pouring last week, farther east. And this is like central Loire Valley, where Chenin Blanc reigns supreme. It is perhaps one of the best grapes in the world. We call it the best grapes in the world just to cause trouble and start a discussion. But this is 100% Chenin Blanc from Anjou. Bless you. This is the big brother to a wine that we already represented downstairs and up at the wine bar several times. This just came in, imported by somebody with whom we have a very, very good relationship, an importer named Casella, who flew me back for the, 16th, 17th time just a few weeks ago to visit his warehouse in Virginia to taste wines from probably 14, 15 different countries. I tried 145 wines in one afternoon. Yes, it's possible. You got to be good at that. And that's where I tasted this and chose it, because they no longer have, at least for the time being, the Little Brother wine. We have some on the shelf. This wine that creeps a little bit over $30 is very special. Texture, ageable, I think. It's dry Chenin Blanc, really thoughtful stuff. Get in on it. Now, we always do a Riesling. We already did a Riesling. We always do a rosé. We don't always do a Riesling, but we always do a rosé. Between now and probably mid-October, we will have a different rosé on the wine bar every freaking week. Can you believe that? I mean, that's because enough of you like it. This one comes from Lodi, and every time you think the wine steward is not into Lodi, then we will point out the fact that we are into anything good from anywhere, and we have found great Lodi wines from thoughtful producers, including this Lorenza. Lorenza is made of, I'm going to cheat, Malbec and Carignan, I believe. Yeah, Carignan, Senso, and Grenache. Close to equal parts thereof. It is very Provence. In other words, I could smell and taste this, and I would think maybe I'm in Provence verging on Bandol. It's really nicely done, really correct. Lean. You know, for those of you who think Lodi is all it tastes like is like freshly spread manure, because some of the red wines do, in fact, and I'm not into those myself. Well, it is possible with good farming and good winemaking to make fantastic wines out there. Our friend Adam Webb does it. Our friend Marcus Bokish does it, and these guys, our new friends, do it too. So get in on this rosé. It's very refreshing, good for a nice, warm, sunny weekend like this. Now, what's that glass all about? I want to bring up an idea that when we taste wine, which is necessary to try a lot of wines. In other words, when you order a flight up here, when you attend one of our events where we're showing 12 or 13, we did 15 wines the other night. When we do that, when we taste wine, we are not fully knowing wine. Every one of those wines was neglected, okay? They were tasted and they were affected by what we had just tasted before that, and they were affected by the fact that our palates are a mess and we're distracted and we are not fully knowing the wine by a 1.5 ounce pour. It just, you know, we can make a good guess, and that's my job, to make a good guess on your behalf. When I taste wines with the vendors, I am in fact given this much, and I don't drink it all the way down. Maybe a drop or two goes down that way and the rest of it into a spit bucket, as you've seen. And that's not the way to fully know a wine. The way to fully know a wine is by the glass. This is 6 ounces of a red wine right here, 6 ounces, okay? You fill it to the widest part of the glass, and that's where you hit 6 ounces on this particular glass. This is a wine that you can go, regardless of the wine, if it's good. Of course, there's shitty wine that you really don't want to invest in, and we're talking about good wine that deserves the investment. The wine steward says it's good, and then you go home and do it, all right? You need to take, what's the next wine? Arcturaga?
Tostados.
Tostados. Dos dedos de frente. She's using sign language. We're going to talk about that in a minute. At any rate, this is back to this digression of mine about knowing a wine fully by having a whole glass of it. Be on the couch and know that wine. Smell it. Have it at the right temperature. Give it good stemware, but have it in volume. And maybe the couch is inappropriate for certain wines. Like this happens to be a French wine right here. I needed 6 ounces of something, so I ran to the wine bar. Oh yeah, there's this. At any rate, this is a French wine that I would much rather have with food. And so environment, give wine the time of day. And every one of those 2 ounce pours, wonder every time. Try to do the math. Like, do I like it a little? That means you're probably going to like it a lot with volume. To that end, there's a wine that we poured at the Washington State wine event that I want to get back out in front of you. Those who came, come back in, try this wine, buy the frickin' glass. I put it on the wine bar menu as a glass-only offering. It's not part of the flight. You may not have a 2 ounce pour of this wine. You must have 6 ounces. How about that? This is called The Walls. Well, the winery is called The Walls. This is a small-ish producer up in Walla Walla. I got to visit the place itself in August of last year. Having already enjoyed a few wines from them, I thought, I really want to go check these people out. And then there's great story behind it. This is a guy named Todd Alexander, a winemaker formerly of Cade and Plumpjack and the Bryant family. All of those are really famous Napa Valley concerns. He went north, as many people are. They're discovering the goodness of Washington State, the relative lower costs of making great wine up there. And so Todd Alexander went up there to start Force Majeure, that's his own project, and is now the kind of consulting winemaker for The Walls. We showed 5 different wines from The Walls the other night, 1 rosé dry and 4 beautiful reds. This was the first red, and yes, we sold some bottles. We are entitled to 3 cases each. This wine and its other 4 peers from The Walls. We are in on the spring allocation from that winery. Only 20 cases of each of those wines are coming to California. We went in on 15% of those wines by speaking for 3 cases each. I want you to know this brand better because A, I think it's great. B, I think you'll love it. And C, I would really like to keep that allocation coming. So if I take my full allocation of 3 cases each, those people up there in Walla Walla are going to notice, and they're going to keep me on a list. it will keep clicking with this offering every probably spring and fall. So this is from the Walls. It's called the Ramparts. By the way, the Walls, what the hell's with the name? Well, the state penitentiary in Walla Walla is nicknamed the Walls, probably by its inhabitants. And so they just took that and applied it to the wine just to be a little fun. I'm sure it's not all that fun to be locked up in there, but it's fun to drink this wine. Now, I've got French stuff in here. I've made the point about drinking a whole glass. What I want is for the people who had 2 ounces of this the other night is to come back in and have a full, spend 20 minutes at least drinking a glass of this wine, 6 ounces. Am I getting my point across? You will fully know this wine. This wine, which among 15 others might have kind of gotten lost. It's often like in a wine tasting, especially if you do a blind tasting at home, people come in and they say, hey, I need to win this blind tasting. I'm going to this party where I'm going to put the wines in brown paper bags. I need to win. You know what I give you? I don't give you the best wine. I give you the loudest wine, the biggest, boldest wine, and that is bound to win. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because some of the best wines are more discreet, more profound. This guy here, it behaves, I should almost be pouring it in a Pinot glass. It's like a Costa Brown style Pinot. It's ripe. It's made of Rhone varieties. It's Grenache, and here we go. Grenache, Mourvèdre, Counoise, and Syrah, entirely from Red Mountain. That's the cool thing about the Walls. They work with Red Mountain fruit and Rocks District fruit over there in Walla Walla. Those are their 2 primary places, though they make wine from other parts of Washington too. But they emphasize Rocks District. Look it up, it's cool. And it looks like Chateauneuf-du-Pape. And then Red Mountain, which is another like hoity-toity premium place in Washington State. All Red Mountain, Rhone varieties. Beautiful stuff, better known by the entire glass. All right, so it's on the menu. Order a glass. It's not inexpensive because it cost us something, but you'll be in on something made by a fantastic winemaker, grown in a terrific place, hitherto unknown to most people in California, but we want to be a specialist. We are all kind of a Washington State specialist. We seem to be becoming that. We do an event every year around that subject. It's wonderful to kind of be owning that. Anyway, I love Washington State wines. This in particular, best known by the frickin' glass, okay? But of course, I must have my little soundbite, sip, and move on and tell you about what's on the red flight. What's on the red flight is all Spain. All Spanish wines. How about that? We're gonna jump around Spain, try things that are, things you may have heard of and other things you haven't. This got a 92 from somebody, as proudly declared on there, but I do frankly hate these stickers. I think it's kind of like, if you want to know how good a wine is, do you need scores? I mean, try the wine, listen to the wine steward. Together we will assess and decide whether or not the wine's good. Well, anyway, for those affected by scores, you got one here, 92 points from somebody. Yeah, and this is called Lagar de Robla. It comes from an area called Bierzo. It's in Green Spain, up on the northwest. But all it says on the back is Castilla y León, because they wanted to save a little money. If they called it Bierzo, they would have to spend a little more money on that tag on the back. At any rate, 100% Mencia. Mencia is the grape, behaves a little bit like, I don't know, maybe Cab Franc a little bit. And they used to think this grape was Cab Franc. Anyway, I had a hunch when I was writing my wine club notes for this wine last week. I thought, this reminds me of something I would be having at Uncle Hugh's restaurant over in Livermore, sitting at the bar, having a good glass of wine and having broccoli beef. And so what I did is I looked up a good recipe for that, went on and made it and had this wine with it. It works. It's really good with broccoli beef. I've never thought of a wine going with broccoli beef. This does. Cool Weather Red. Cool Weather Red. Kind of an exception to the Spanish wine rule in that way. All right, wine number 2. Where should we go? Hey, let's get traditional. Look at this label. You already know this wine is going to be traditional based on this this kind of traditional looking label. This is from Bodegas Olarra, and it's nicknamed Reciente. It is Reserva Rioja. We've all heard of Rioja. We have some good customers who are going there in a week or two. They're going to visit Rioja with their daughter, and we've been a little bit helpful with hooking them up with some people who will give them some very nice experiences there. And we can do that from time to time in an area that we know better than others. Rioja, we know people who know at least. So anyway, Tony and Jen and Madison are going to have a nice time over there in Spain. In the meantime, we at home will just keep being jealous and drinking some Rioja to drown our sorrows. How about that? 100%? No, not 100%. This is about 90% Tempranillo, and two other frequent players in Rioja chime in the form of a combined 10%. They would be Mazuelo, which is better known as Carignan, and the other grape is Graziano, which is not better known as anything. Graziano was kind of a native to Rioja. You could call it maybe the Petit Verdot of Rioja. It kind of adds a little tweak of greenery to the wine. Aged in American oak, as most traditional Riojas are, which sounds interesting, right? Like, how and when did they ever get a hold of American oak? There's a lot of stories about why that happens, but just try the wine. Know that you're having a good traditional Rioja here. Not expensive. Not the most amazing wine you'll ever have, but really honest to the classical style. It's under 20 bucks a bottle. Quite good. Quite good. And they got 90 points from somebody. Yay! Oh, what the hell. All right, now let's go to Calatayud. This is the label that Grace was alluding to when she did that. You couldn't see her. She was off screen. But look at the dude. This is a Scotsman. That means he came from Scotland. And he is making a funny gesture in front of his face. This is called dos dedos de frente, which is basically a Spanish way of saying, you're loco, you're ridiculous. This guy from Scotland, come to this like backwater wine region called Calatayud, and you're trying to make a Syrah with Viognier in it? Like, what the hell? This is Garnacha country. Well, he makes a beautiful Garnacha. He makes some other fantastic wines. This Scotsman, sometimes it takes like somebody coming from outside who knows the world of wine. He used to sell wine, I believe, in Scotland while he was working his way through college. And then he got wine training. He went to New Zealand. He's made wine in different parts of the world. So he's got what I consider to be so important for great winemaking, not just good money and not just technical knowledge, but an awareness of the wines of the world. They need to be in your database when you finally decide to make your own stuff. So he's got that. This dude, the Flying Scotsman, they call him, El Escocés Volante, is making beautiful wines in an area where the wines are typically inexpensive, like, $5-10 a bottle. And he's showing them a thing or two. What that area already has, if this wine was waiting to happen, is fantastic raw material in the form of very, very old vines, a very, very low rainfall, and so these vines struggle to put out a crop, and the crop that is produced is intense in its flavors. And it took a great wine mind to come in and say, holy shit, we can make really good wine here if we try. We don't have to just make the very good $10 stuff. We can take it up a notch. This is up a big notch, and it's brave enough to go out of the box varietally and to try Syrah with a little addition of Viognier, as they might make in Cobroti, right? Cool wine. Very cool wine. We only have 6 bottles left. Now there are 5. Okay? Beautiful. Elegant, dark, brooding. Yes, it's brooding. Now, here is another Spanish wine, but we are not on the mainland of Spain. We are going to go east. Jump off of the beach in Barcelona and head over to the Balearic Islands and wash up on the shores of Ibiza. Ibiza, some people say Ibiza, whatever. Anyway, Ibiza would be the more appropriate way of saying it. Yes, there's wine from there, but we've never had it until recently. And hibiscus, reference to the flower, is going to be 100% Monastrell, otherwise known as Mataro, and you've never heard of either of those perhaps, so why don't we say Mourvedre, or Mourvedre, if you want me to pronounce it that way. 100% Mourvedre, that for me reminds me a bit of Bandol. That's the red wine from the south of France. Bandol is a really dark, sturdy version of Mourvedre that needs a little bit of time to air out. I believe this wine is kind of primary right now. However, I believe it has wonderful aging potential. I'm going to put 6 bottles away for myself and try a bottle every 2 years, as I might a great Bandol. I think this wine is worthy of that level of attention. Pretty damn good right now, just slightly unevolved. That's how we have to sell wine. We can't sit on inventory. You have to go home and sit on inventory, buy the wine, and watch it age. All right, now we're going to finish off that red flight with Arcturaga, our good friend Tinto Arcturaga from Bodegas Arcturaga. This is a crianza, which simply means it's aged for a certain amount of time, a little less time than their reserva, all right? It's all that crianza and reserva and gran reserva are really alluding to is aging time, like in barrel and in winery. It's usually a sum of both of those durations, you could say. This is going to be made nearly entirely at Tempranillo, and they don't really say, but it's suggested that there might be a little kind of tinge of Merlot in there. They are allowed to use Bordeaux varieties here in Ribera del Duero, which is kind of like the alter ego or the counterpart or the maybe competitor to Rioja. It's the other famous place for Tempranillo in Spain, and that's where we're going to end up. The wines are darker here than they are in Rioja. Like if we were to compare it to the Tempranillo we were having from Rioja, well, this is twice the price, so one would expect it to have more body. But even so, the first wine, where that bottle went, I think Grace took it, is more mellow and suave. That's what we want from Rioja. Here it is. Mellow and suave and darker, more sumptuous. For those who like cabs, they're going to love this wine. For those who love lamb, they're going to love this wine. Either way, thank you for listening. Remember to drink, occasionally at least, wines by the whole glass. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your personal decanter. You know, let the wine air out. It comes to you, you come to it. You know, it's also about you getting used to it. And it, at the same time, developing with a little bit of air. And, you know, it's a nice relationship you have with a whole glass of freaking wine. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic weekend. See ya.